Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video in which I go over my favourite designs individually from the Gundam universe. I get to talk about them a little bit, about what I like about them, and I'm doing it all from memory, not from like Wikipedia or anything. So yeah, let's get into this. This one, the Crossbone Gundam. I've said to people many a time now that I absolutely love the Crossbone Gundam's designs, whether it be the X1, X2, the full cloth. I find them all fascinating, primarily because it's the whole idea of we have every other design for Gundams. You know, we have things like ninjas, we have samurai. So, of course, at some point, we've got to get to pirates. You know, it's just a theme thing. And the way that they've done it is really cool. This is supposed to be, if I remember rightly, at the very tail end of UC, which might be getting retconned at this point in time, but the point of me actually doing this video, it's kind of up in the air as to what they're doing with late UC. I think late UC, if I remember rightly, covers Victory, F91, and this. And as we see in that kind of time period, mobile suits go smaller, and this thing is a small powerhouse, and yeah, it's fantastic. So let's get into this. Skulls everywhere. Not so much the edgy person in me that's like, oh, we need to put skulls all over a Gundam. It just fits the theme, and it looks really cool. Just some tiny crossbones and a skull here and there to really hammer home the idea that it's a pirate-themed Gundam. Yeah, I like that. The color schemes, they're pretty similar to the normal Gundam color schemes. The X2, not so much, primarily because that's like a dark color scheme. But, yeah, then we get into the weapons that are all based on what looks like pirate weapons. So we've got the Zamba, or the Zambuster, which are like a pirate cutlass and a pirate's like flintlock pistol almost that they can combine into the Zambuster. Which is a neat idea. Then we've got the fact that this thing has, you know, like the usual deal with shoulder Vulcans, head Vulcans. It's got two cool gimmicks that I like that are in the skirt armor on the front, where they can lift up and shoot out like anchors that can grab onto either other mobile suits or different surfaces or weapons and steal them. It's got knives that are in the bottom of its feet, so it can stab other mobile suits with those. It's got some beam sabers, as with most Gundams. And then we start getting into some of the optional elements, like we've got the anti-beam cloak that looks really cool. It kind of looks like that one sort of wandering traveler style that they've got going on, kind of similar to how I mentioned with the Astray No Name. It's sort of this beaten up look where it's been through a lot of battles, or you know, it's definitely seen a lot of action. It's got like holes in it here and there, but the idea of it is it's meant to stop beams. And then of course you've got the full cloth. The full cloth is this crazy idea where you slap a load of more armor on top of it, and then give it what looks to be like a crossbow of sorts with a lot of different barrels on that can fire really high-powered beams. And then to top it all off, it has two giant skulls on the shoulders which can double up as knuckle dusters but are also eye field generators. I just think it's absolutely insane. Again, it's one of those examples of most of these mobile suits that I like can take on multiple different roles in a battle and take on multiple different suits at one time. This thing, I like it, and I've said this before, it's a Swiss Army knife made into a Gundam because it's got that many hidden tricks up its sleeve, and that's why I like the Crossbone Gundam. You just never know what it's going to pull out next in terms of its weapon in what situation. And then on top of all of that, you've got that really cool face mask with I think it's like a heat vent underneath it, if I remember rightly. The mask opens similar to the F91, but whereas the F91 opens, I think it's left and right, so that it splits down the center, the Crossbone Gundams instead lifts up and has that kind of like very beastie style look to it. That really tops it off. It just looks very brutal. It's got like fangs on the inside while the heat is venting out of its faceplate. But yeah, it's a really cool design just looking at it. But the only time it's ever been done proper justice in this form, which we'll get into in another video about what I mean by that, but the way, like, the only justice it's had done to it so far that I remember was Build Fighters Tribe, where Lucas Nemesis uses the full cloth to fight Team Celestial Sphere, I think it is. And if it wasn't limited to the amount of particles that you need to play a Gunpla fight in that universe's context, then I think the Crossbone full cloth would have been a lot more competent at fighting. You already see it handle 3 mobile suits in one go pretty easily. The only difference is that it runs out of particles really fast. This thing, I imagine, if it was ever animated properly and within the context of its own canon, I imagine would be able to do stuff like that really easy without losing much power or having those power restrictions. And the funny thing is, Team Celestial Sphere aren't exactly low-ranked pilots. They don't have weak suits. And this thing manages to go toe-to-toe with them via some really interesting tactics, like managing to sneak up on the Portent Gundam, managing to steal the Gundam The End's revolver off it that it uses against it, managing to destroy all of The End's little bits that it can fire out of its hands, and managing to take on the Transient Gundam in hand-to-hand pretty evenly. It's really cool. Plus, if I remember rightly, as another added feature for that fight, it's got I don't know whether it's just for that fight or whether it's within its own loadout, is that it has like a flashbang that's in the front of it, mounted inside the eyes of the torso-mounted skull. And again, that's another really cool thing to add to it, primarily just because if it really needs to, it can just get out of there as fast as possible by blinding enemy pilots. But yeah, the Crossbone Gundams are a really interesting design. I like all of them. The look, the part, the theme of them isn't totally over the top. The colour schemes are done really nicely on them to kind of give them a classic Gundam look, but also to change it up just a little bit to make it unique. And the little bits of detail, like what looks like scars, but the red sort of accents on the head, and the sort of aggressive looking faceplate, that just really seals the deal for me. I wish this would get animated, and I wish we'd get a decent version of the actual model kits that can hold up all the weapons without the arms falling apart. I don't know whether they're going to be doing that for the real grade. I've not got my hands on the real grade yet, but I hear it's a good kit. I might end up doing it eventually, and it's, again, my love for the Crossbone stems from the whole idea that we've not seen it animated fully yet. We've not seen Crossbone get turned into a full-on animation, and I think that sort of mystery as to whether it would be good as an animated series, whether people would enjoy it and how it would look, what the battles would be like, and how it would play out compared to, I think it's the manga. It'd be interesting to see, but that kind of mystery as to not knowing too much about it properly and having not seen it animated too much, that again gives it that kind of that cool factor. It's not been totally focused on, it's not been shown off in full, and that gives you that little bit of room to speculate and to kind of fantasize about it a little bit in terms of how cool it is as a design and how it works. It's a really neat thing. The same thing happened with the Unicorn Gundam for me. It's that, like, for ages, you would see, like, pictures of it floating around the internet, and you never really knew, or if you were a casual fan, you never really knew kind of what the Unicorn Gundam could do if you didn't look too much into it. And it kind of became this almost like mythical thing where everyone was just like, oh, it looks so cool, you know, with its Psycho frame showing. And again, it's that same thing with the Crossbone Gundam. It's a really cool design. It's not been shown off enough. And if they do show it off, I want them to do it justice. You know, give me more scenes like in Build Fighters, but don't give me those restrictions, you know, the energy restrictions. I just want to see this thing just wreck a bunch of mobile suits. Anyway, hope you guys have enjoyed. Comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!